Hey, I'm Kelly Breece, and this is Pastor Clay Baggett. This is a new view, and I have a question.
All right.
You feel joy today?
I do.
Do you?
I do feel joy.
What's making you feel joy today?
The fact that I wore terrible socks with terrible shoes for our recording.
Right on. I love it. Reebok.
Yep,
Reebok.
yep,
It's
see?
a plug. It's a plug. I'm feeling joy because we have new digs here.
That is true.
Isn't this fun?
That is true.
And we just got started on this. I got my sweet hubby making sure we sound good and look good. And I've got my dear friend just to sit here and
we are.
hang out and talk. And we're going to talk about joy in a crazy world.
There's plenty of crazy going around.
So if I ask you, what year do you go back to when I say crazy world?
Oh, I think in our current culture, I think you can't help but go back to our good old C-19 year of 2020.
2020. It's like, I think that's what everybody, if anybody, that's the gauge. That's our gauge.
Yeah.
It's been crazy all along, but it reached a new level.
Kind of culminated in that moment.
So here we are. It's springtime. We're about in the same time of year that all this started to happen, and we're following the rules. We were being good. We're being cautious. We're being considerate.
That depends on what state you lived in.
That's true. We're in Tennessee, so we were a little less.
We're a little more fortunate, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I didn't even realize that. I truly didn't realize that.
Unless you travel in 2020, you don't know.
Ooh. So in Tennessee, we had the rules, we had the lockdown and all of that. Well, I had two kids at home, at the time, 15, 18, around in there, had a freshman and a senior. And to be honest, the first part of it, we were loving it.
Right.
We were loving it.
Yeah.
Yes, our business shut down. That was not fun. But we were loving the family time. We were loving going over the Greenway and walking, all this stuff. But so we spent a couple of weeks as a family. We did our thing. We just home cooked meals at night.
Yep.
It was amazing.
Yep.
It was everything I've ever dreamed
Right.
of, right? I know it wasn't that way for everybody. I understand that, absolutely. But a few weeks in, I think we started to listen to the TV and we started to ask questions. We started to go, really? Seriously? And not to get too deep into it, one afternoon, I remember my daughter walking down into the kitchen and she just looked sad. She just looked sad. She looked lonely. And I realized that she hadn't seen her friends in 2 months. And I remember standing in the kitchen and it was my moment.
Yeah.
It was my moment. And I stopped and I went, God said, don't fear. And we're fearing. And I stood there and I thought, we're done.
Yeah.
It's lifted. Call your friends. Let's have a party.
Yeah.
So we had underground cookouts. We had the underground fire pits.
You rebel.
I stood up one morning and I said, as for me and my house, we serve the Lord.
That's right.
We go on with life.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. So in this crazy, crazy, crazy world, that was my epiphany, is that it says in the Bible, don't fear, stop fearing, let's move on.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. I have my life verse. Let me share my life verse with you.
All right.
It's James 1:6. And normally when I have a verse that is my favorite, it comes out of the Message Bible because I love it when God reads a story to me because it makes it so easy to understand. But I will go back to the King James on this one because
That's getting deep.
That's
the version Jesus carried. You didn't know that. Okay. All right. Just make sure you knew that.
So he nailed me on this one. And it says, but let him ask in faith, nothing wavering.
Yeah.
I love those words. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea driven with the wind and tossed.
Yeah.
That resonates with me. And so what I realized in this crazy world that we live in is that you have a black and white choice.
Yeah.
You get up in the morning and you're going to either trust or you're going to...
That's right. Yeah.
You're going to have
every day
or fear. And that is the way it is. And so many situations in life after that, I have found myself going, are you making your choice?
Mm-hmm.
Which choice are you making right now?
Yeah.
So are we going to be tossed with the storms?
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So how do we have joy in this crazy world?
I think to find joy is once again, as you said, it's a choice. Uh, some of the happiest people that I've met in my lifetime have been people that I would have thought have nothing to be joyful about.
They've been through it.
Well, because number one, I'm comparing them to my ideals. I'm comparing them to what I know, all these things. And all it takes is a little bit of travel around the world to realize that there are people living in mud huts that have more joy than people who are living in mansions on the ocean shore.
Absolutely. Good.
So how do we find joy in the craziness? And it is that. It's making the choice of saying, you know what? Number one, it can always be worse. And I don't care how bad it is, it can always be worse. But I think really it's that choice of finding the good, of learning to, it's that idea of the optimist and the pessimist. It's learning how to say, I'm choosing the good pieces of this moment to really throw myself into. And I just don't want to be locked into that bad. The thing is, there's always going to be some bad. Yeah. It's in there. I mean, you're always going to have a 2020, but what about all the good stuff that was there?
Yeah, and there was a lot of good stuff.
As a pastor.
Beautiful things.
As a pastor, it was like, normal church didn't happen for a long time. We didn't stay shut down for very long, but I think here in the South, we woke up a little bit sooner than some of our brothers and sisters that got stuck in different situations, but thank God for conservative government. But one of the things I'll tell you is that one of the hard things that happened during that time, I remember standing on the platform one Sunday and looking around and going, this is a whole new bunch of people. Where are the other people?
Really?
Oh yeah. There was that moment where you're like going, this is a new church. There are new people that have come in here, dramatically so. And then I would talk to other pastors, and many of them would say the same thing. So you say, well, where's the good in that? Well, the good in that is that, number one, none of those people have heard your sermons before. You could start over. No, that's a joke. No, the truth is that, you're reaching new people, which is every pastor's hope and desire, but also that change, people that weren't on board with the vision perhaps just kind of fell off into the woodwork and ended up somewhere else, or, there's some good. So you look at that and go, how is that good? It's all in your mindset.
Yeah.
So to me, you look at the parts that, here are the good pieces, here are the bad pieces. You can always find what you're looking for. I just choose as a priority in my life is let me not focus on the negative. Because that's just going to be a down thing. That's not going to bring joy.
So I think one of the biggest parts of knowing that we can live in joy in a crazy messed up world is knowing that we're protected.
Yep.
Okay. So what scripture do we all run back to when we think of protection? Psalm 91. Okay.
Yep.
So we've read it, and I don't think I ever read it so much as I did in 2020.
Right.
Since then.
Yeah.
But it's all about being sheltered. So again, we're in Tennessee. Just a couple of weeks ago, just today, you were cleaning up trees from storms. So few days ago, actually, it was an interesting thing. We have a friend of my son staying with us, and he's from Boston, so he didn't know anything about tornadoes.
Welcome to Tennessee.
But he didn't know about the tornado thing. So we told him,
it's a different experience.
Isn't it fun? It's an eye-opening thing. So before we went to bed, we said, hey, they're saying a lot of storms are going to come in, but we'll let you know, and if it gets bad, we will let you know, we will alert you, and we'll all go down to the storm shelter. Now, we had a storm shelter because we've lived in our house for 20 some years. And in that time, there's probably been about 10, 15 tornadoes
Yep.
that have touched down about half a mile from us. So
Right.
we're used to it. We don't necessarily get
Yep.
super scared about it or anything, but we're not stupid.
Right.
So my precious father-in-law several years back built a storm shelter for us. So that's what we do. So at 3 a.m.
Oh, people don't realize there's nothing more restful
No.
than having 4 phones in your house and your laptops and your iPads
And the alarm
and your
outside if you're in the
TV.
city,
Yeah,
just going
all
nuts.
you're getting alerts, and then at 3 a.m., they're telling you to put on a helmet.
Oh yeah, it's
And-
on your
Oh my gosh, and it's like nobody sleeps that night.
No, it doesn't.
No, it's not going to happen.
So at 3 a.m. we get up. Of course, the kids are sleeping. They're all their phones are going
Oh.
crazy. They don't hear a thing. And so we come up. Hey, everybody, get up! This is the moment. Let's all go down to the shelter. So
Did
we
you
get
say
up.
it like that?
Okay, so the first time we did,
Yeah.
first time we did. Here's what's funny. No, Todd. Okay, let me back up. Let me just get real.
Okay, all right.
No, backing up 20 years.
Mhm.
With one of the first tornadoes that we had, my son was an infant. Okay, so he is bottle, passy, all that. So we didn't have a storm shelter at that time. All we had was a closet. So I have my son with me. We're out on the porch looking because it's fun and it's
Of course,
exciting.
that's what we do.
I love storms. So I go in and I open up
That
the
explains a
closet.
lot.
It does.
Oh, anyway, go ahead.
This is going to explain even more. Because I go and open up the closet.
That's why I pray for your husband so much. Okay. All right, go ahead.
I open the closet and my husband is in the closet with a bike helmet on and the pacifier stuck to his shirt like this and just sitting in the closet. And Shane and I are just
That's so funny.
storm rolling in. So that tells you the dynamic. So,
Right.
Yeah, so at 3 a.m. I was like, hey guys, come on, let's go get the shoulder. So we did. We go down there. Well, it was funny to watch Aaron, our friend here, but because this is all new to him. So what do we do? So we get in the shelter. It wasn't a big deal. We always bet. The next day, the kids are getting ready to go. They've got friends. They got plans and everything. It's about 4:30, and they're getting ready to leave. And all of a sudden, we hear these warnings. It's coming right at you this time. So we usher right back into the shelter. Well, this time we've got lots of friends here. So there's 6 of us crammed into the shelter with the dog. But I will say this. When push comes to shove, I make my son pray.
Yeah.
Because I love the way he prayed.
Yeah.
And the way he prayed, and his girlfriend was with us that day too, and she prayed. And I stood there and I listened to them, and he was saying this prayer, you got to pluck this storm and you got to pull it right back up.
Yeah.
It's going to dissolve and we're going to be just fine. And, I could just feel myself just calm down, and then she said a prayer. It was beautiful. And she was speaking Psalm 91 over us. So we get done with this prayer, and I look over at Aaron, and he's just kind of in awe of all this going on.
Yeah.
He's like, that's crazy. This place is crazy. Y'all crazy.
Everybody in Tennessee's like that.
Yeah. So, but at this moment, this tornado is on my road.
Right.
It's on the news. This is the name of your street. This is your little community. It's right there, At the time, my daughter's at work down the road, and it's headed right to her. And so what I realized in that moment was, I'm in a storm shelter. I'm not worried.
Yeah.
I'm fine. My house may be gone when we come out. I'm worried to death about my daughter down the street because she's working, and I'm not sure how protected she is. But I remember thinking, I'm okay. We're okay. That is, when I think of Psalm 91, I think of that shelter. That God is not running around grabbing us all up. He is steady.
Yeah.
He's staying put. And he is saying to us, come get him a storm shelter.
Yeah.
When the winds blow or the storms come.
Abide in him. That's the word.
And so I think the part that gets me about Psalm 91 is that he's like a mother hen. He is not losing his mind right now. He is steady, and he's staying put. And he's saying, you come to me, You come to me and I've got you. So when we are looking at a crazy world and we are looking at Psalm 91 and we read all of it, I will protect you against the storm and the arrow and the pestilence and everything else.
Oh, yep. I know what's coming.
And we feel that confidence. And then we stop and we go, yeah, well, it didn't work so well with a hurricane in North Carolina. It didn't work so well with wildfires in California.
Yeah. You know, I think, though, we have to realize, too, number one, we live in a fallen world. The sin nature of the world, we go to the whole theological thing through Genesis, but most of us understand that. There's a lot of crappy stuff in the world.
Yeah.
But we have a good Father who knows the future from the past, from the present. He created time. Bunch more theological stuff we could talk about there. But when we boil it down, bad things happen to good people. It's one of the greatest questions that people ask.
Yeah.
Was, if God's so good, then why do bad things happen?
And it's what keeps people away.
It can.
And how do we...
Well, because here's the thing. I think we have taught, in many cases, a false view of God. That God doesn't allow anything harmful to befall a person who follows him. That's not necessarily true, because the Bible even says it rains on the just and the unjust. The difference is the abiding part. When we learn to understand, like with Psalm 91, that we abide in him, that he is our protection, he is all those things. Number one, it's not just physical, it's spiritual. To understand, first of all, that the viewpoint of a Christian is not just my here and now. It's tomorrow. It's eternity. And to know that, as Paul said in the New Testament, he says that, for me to live is gain, to die is gain. To understand, no matter what happens, I win. I know that my future is secure. In our world, we look at the now. We look at the physical. And if we just look at that, then I think we miss the weight, the beauty of that abiding. Now, I'll also say this. I think that God hears the prayers of his people. I think he's concerned for his people. But I also know that the hard thing, and there's no way to really explain away this concern, is bad things happen to good people. And why does one person survive an accident and another person doesn't? Why does one person who has cancer and God heals this one and doesn't heal the other? The hard thing, Kelly, is that we don't understand all those answers. I think the challenge comes to the place of, who do we trust? And I think that's exactly it, is learning to trust that God, if I have to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, if I have to walk through things that I do not want to, God, help me have the mindset to know that no matter what it looks like, no matter how bad it gets, I still win because you're with me. And I think that, and I get that's, and people say, well, you're just, you're bouncing around the, no, I'm not, because we can't answer that fully. Yeah. But what we can say is that God cares. And the word tells us he'll never leave us. He'll never forsake us. And there's a passage I was saying, I've got it right here in 2 Corinthians chapter 4. And it's, I think verse 16 says, therefore we do not lose heart. It's talking about tribulations, talk about those hard things. Don't lose heart. And verse 18 says, for what is seen is temporary. What is unseen is eternal. So I think some of that is our outlook. If we're looking at the temporal, then we're going to be fearful. But if we take into account the eternal, it changes things a little bit. So it does kind of affect how you see things.
Here's another idea.
Let me see what question I can bounce around and not answer.
Let me see. Okay. we live in this world now where everything is at our fingertips. I can understand what is happening in every country of the world at all times, 24/7.
Whether you want to know it or not.
Whether you want to know it or not. There is this idea that we know too much and we shouldn't know too much.
Mm-hmm.
I read this recently, just that you were supposed to take care of your family and your community or your village.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that? Can we go back to that mindset? Because sometimes I think that's the only way we're going to find joy in this crazy world. Because if I wake up in the morning and flip that phone open, I'm going to hear of some tragedy over here, and I'm going to hear of tragedy on the West Coast and this and this. So I know I look at my husband, and he has this beautiful gift of being able to say, that's not my problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to get so upset at that.
Yeah.
I used to get so upset. Don't you understand? There's a starving cat in New Guinea. We're supposed to be worried about him.
Of course.
But he has a gift of being able to say, God will take care of that. That's not our problem.
I think you have to have some level of that understanding to know that there are some things in this world that we cannot change. Only God can. And I think there's a lot of peace that comes when you release this, that's saying, like injustice. Until Jesus comes back and men are running this thing, there's going to be injustice. Yeah. It's going to be there. There's going to be things that aren't fair. Mm-hmm. It just is. But the idea of saying, you know what, let me do what I can do. I can do this. And I believe God expects us to do what we can do. Just like on the storms, it's like this, it's like a lot of times people who want to go out and watch the storm instead of go to a place where it's safe, and then the storm comes and gets Dorothy and takes her to the wizard. And then they're like, well, God didn't protect me. Uh-huh. No, God told you to get your dumb butt into the place where you should be safe, right? With a pillow over your head. But the point is that we need to do what we know to do. What He's shown us, the wisdom that we have. He'll do what we can't do. And I believe that part is that it's that trust mechanism. That's what it really comes down to so often, is I need to trust God when all hell's breaking loose, when nothing's going right, when I've had this happen and this happen and this happen. And here's the thing, we've all been there.
And especially you. I think about you a lot as a pastor.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how many different family situations and tragedies and sicknesses. And
my dad used to say this. He said he'd always tell people when they'd come up and say, I feel like I'm called to preach. I'm called to be a pastor. And he'd said, are you? He goes, well, buddy, you better know you heard from God, because if you haven't, it's going to kill you. And he's not wrong.
I get that.
And it's true, because you do. But once again, I think it's that place where you draw a line and realize, number one, as a believer, our job is to reach out. Our job is to help as many people as we can help. But I've also learned it's like in the aircraft. When you play and the attendants are saying, here's going over all the security measures that 0 people pay attention to. Mm-hmm. Hey, you want to do something fun? Is when you're on the plane and the stewardess or what are the flight attendants? Sorry, I have to be politically correct. Yes. So the flight attendants are doing their thing, and they're going with this. I make complete eye contact the whole time. It's funny.
You're the one person.
Oh yeah, nobody else is paying a bit of attention.
Years that's paid attention to.
And the flight attendants going.
And you should ask questions.
We need to keep an eye.
Hey, what if?
That'd be great. I want to do that. I am so going to do that.
Back in the days before, this was before 9/11, when you could get on a Southwest flight.
Yeah.
And they could actually joke about it.
Right.
And part of the spiel was they would say, now, if this flight becomes a cruise, this is what you do. And I remember I missed that so much.
I know.
Because
isn't it funny?
We could joke around about stuff.
What they said, there's one thing they say, though, that just is such powerful life lesson. Is, if the oxygen mask comes down, if you have a child with you or somebody that you're caring for, pick your favorite, right? No. They say, Put it on yourself first so that you can then help the person you're with. Well, the logic behind that is that if you don't have the oxygen and you pass out, then you can't help the person that you're with. So many times we spend our time worrying about things that we cannot do. We expend our energies, our talents, our resources in areas that only diminishes, and they're good things. But yet then, we're out saving the world, but our marriage falls apart.
Yeah.
We're out saving the world, but our kids are lost without God. Our kids are spinning in this world where, by the way, the Jed Foundation did a study not long ago. So within the last 2 years, they did a study where 45% of teenagers are in a place where they have mental challenges and issues right now. Where depression, they don't feel like they're supported, they don't feel like this, so they're fighting all these things. And here's the thing, listen, and to all parents, to all of us, we're parents. I'm a grandparent. 5, baby. I got 5. I love it.
Beautiful babies.
And but here's the thing, is we have to realize, even Jesus, when he's given the Great Commission,
he's in charge of everything.
And here it's the circle. And I'm not going to try to quote the cities because I always mess that up. But he said, here, as you go out into all the world, into your Judea, your Samaria, he goes through this list. And basically it builds here, it's the circle keeps widening and widening. But what we do, because we're so information driven and we have the whole world at our fingertips.
And I need to worry about
we automatically go, let's change the world.
Yeah.
Which is great. But if we don't get this first, then we're going to lose that. So we have to find that place of finding, how do I find my joy? How do I make sure my kids are joyful, my family's joyful, my community's joyful?
And I think we get up in the mornings and we open up our phone and we what did I call it? My kids had this name for me because I would open up, and thank goodness I'm not sitting on my phone all day, I promise. But when I would open up Instagram, I would be sitting with the kids and I would be like, sad story right here. And finally, my son looked at me and he said, Mom, do you know what you're doing right there, right? And I said, what? And he said, you have basically told the algorithms of the world, please shove sadness into my face every single day so that I can feel awful all day long. And I realized, and I think that's what a lot of people are doing right now.
Yeah.
And I think that we are weakening our souls and weakening our spirits and our physical selves, paying too much attention to what's going on in the world. And when it comes down to it, like you said, when somebody really does need you, you've got nothing left because you didn't pull
your bucket's empty. Yep.
And I think that's what a lot of us are doing, and we don't even know.
I know. And I tell people all the time, when they say, what is something I can do to make my day better, and one of the things I've learned, I heard somebody describe it this way one time, is, when I wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that, we don't want to admit this, but what's the first thing we do when we wake up? Most people reach over and grab their phone. If they get out of the bed, maybe they go to the bathroom, maybe they grab a cup of coffee, but the first they grab their phone and they're looking, did I get any messages? Do I have any emails? Dear Lord, are we that bad? But one of the things I've learned too is every day when I get up, I don't look at my phone. I get sky time before I have screen time. So I go outside.
Yes.
I'm looking at these things. I'm just looking around, enjoying it. The sun's usually not up yet. I'm watching it kind of crest over and just enjoying, just looking, taking the dog out while I have the opportunity, kind of combine those things. And so and I'm not saying I'm 100% all the time, but I try my very best to make sure that I don't let that dictate to me, because I'm just going to be honest. There's not a lot of joy on social media.
And that's by design.
Yeah. And they say, no, I like looking at the cats. I like looking at the happy pictures. And I do too. And they are there. But just as your son said, there's an algorithm that pushes things toward you. And to think that the enemy of our soul doesn't use things to push the things that are going to pull you away from God's purposes, which is where our joy comes from.
Absolutely. He knows, pulling my heartstrings.
That's exactly right.
Tell me about some
there are kids dying all across the world. What are you doing about it?
Right. Yeah. And so by the end of the day, if I've watched 5, 6, 10 of those or whatever, I'm so weak.
Right. Because we're human and we love people and we want to help. We want to do that. But the problem is that, once again, there's a scripture that talks about, hope deferred makes a heart sick. And when we come to the place where it's like, I want to help in this area. And the problem is that we don't have the resources to do this. We don't have the influence yet to do this. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, do what you can.
Right. And then
if you can change one person's life, if you can help one person, I can promise you're going to find some joy.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing it, if you're doing it in some obedience, if you're waiting to hear the word, go help that person. It's not out of fear. It's not.
And sometimes just be good. Just be a good person. Yeah. It'll make you stand out in the world we live in. Just be good.
Absolutely. And I was thinking that it's interesting you said that, because I was thinking I was the recipient of that one time, and I will never forget that.
Somebody's been good to you once?
One time. No, it's just one time.
I'm going to have to talk to your house.
I was in my 20s, and I've talked about this before, but came out of college, got the job with the production company. It was so great. I work in TV production. Kept the job 3 years. Yep. That job got canceled. I was devastated.
Yep.
I just bought a house, just bought a car. All those things. So I'm devastated. Life is over. I'm 25. It's over.
You're brilliant, too. 25 is a brilliant age.
Yeah, I knew everything. And I knew that life was over because I lost this job that was going to sustain me for the rest of my life.
Right.
So anyway, it's laughable now. A friend of mine called me who was in the business, and I barely knew him. He and his wife, he called me and he said, "Can I take you to ice cream? Eat some ice cream today?" And I answered, I remember going, okay, sure. Went to go have ice cream with them. They had me laughing so hard within an hour, and they were telling me stories about how they got fired from some job in high school or whatever, and some show he was on got canceled, and how it was just devastating and all that. But you know what? At the end of that, for the first time in my life, I was 25 years old, and I had never had a person specifically put their hands on my shoulder and pray for me.
Yeah.
In a parking lot in an ice cream shop.
Right.
I will never forget that as long as I live. Because what it made me realize was that in the scariest, at the time, devastating time, because it was all over, in the most devastating time as a 25-year-old, I felt such joy.
Yeah.
In that moment, and it felt so comforted and so held and so loved. And I will never forget that. I don't remember any of the days about how bad it felt. And all I know is that it worked out. We moved on and we got other jobs and all that, but that will never, ever leave me. And just a few years ago, decades ago, and just a few years ago, I was talking to this person, and his mom is ill. And I told him, I said, he asked me, he said, "Why did you just call me out of the blue like that?" I said, "Because I've never forgotten you."
Yeah.
I had never forgotten you.
I love that.
You gave me such joy.
Right.
In such a rough time.
You know, we don't realize that new beginnings can happen till there's an ending.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we are so focused on the endings that we lose the joy of the adventure of what's next. And, I get that that's a two-way street and there's challenges here and there and all that. But honestly, I think it's a mindset. I think it's that place of realizing, for me to go to the next level that I want to go to in my life, I've got to realize that I have to let go of where I was, of all that stuff, and learn to find the joy, to be intentional about finding the joy. And those are great lessons when God brings people like that in our lives to help us see that. I love that.